Hey, Marco, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great.
Absolutely. So, for those who don't know, you are a divorce attorney in Utah and a recent TikToker, right?
Yeah. So, name's Marco Brown. I've been here in Salt Lake for about the last decade, 11 years, helping people with divorce. Helped over 3,000 at this point. Met with over 10,000 people, and just got on TikTok, kind of serendipitously. Let's put it that way, and it kind of blew up.
That's awesome. I don't know how I stumbled upon your account, but you're actually, I wanted to tell you this, and not to be any kind of, I guess, starstruck, but I am a huge fan of what you're posting. I love the fact that you're posting what seems to be a lot of answering just genuine questions about divorce proceedings and stuff like that. And I see that you're also trying to find the best burger in Utah. I love that little series you got going on. Have you found one?
Yeah, so I have I've done this a little bit before, but I'm like on the quest to be sure that I found the best. So I have my top four. My favorite one, I definitely have, and no one's knocked that off since. But yeah, I have my top four that I just dearly love.
Yeah, those seem really fascinating. And I love the fact that do you just Google on like look on Yelp to see who has the best burger, or are you just like finding random like mom and pop places?
So this is the way so I'm a food guy. I do this. I go back to Italy a lot. I lived in Italy when I was younger, and then I go back quite a bit. It's how I deal with my stress. So I kind of mastered this while I was looking at Italian food because I'd go places and try to find good places. And what I do mostly is I look at the photos, and you can kind of tell from the photos how a food is going to taste.
Yeah.
At least I can if I'm familiar with it, right? Like I know how a pasta dish should taste by how it looks, like how authentic it is and whatnot, because I've eaten so many of them at this point. And any American can kind of do the same thing with burgers. So that's kind of my first thing is I look at the photos, I'll look at the reviews. Anything below a 4, there's no way in Hades that I'm gonna like it. Usually anything below a 4.5, there's not a chance that I'm gonna like it because I'm super pretentious when it comes to this stuff. So I do that a little bit, and then try to talk to people. Like I talk with my friends on Facebook. Hey, what do you got? Where have you been? See what they have, and then just go out and eat a lot of burgers. You eat a lot of crap, and then you find like some really good ones. But that's the only way that you find anything that's like spectacularly good is you just have to eat a bunch of crap first.
That's awesome. It looks like a lot of fun. I was like, what a brilliant idea. That looks like so much fun just to go out there and do that. And you probably, I don't know if you go take a bunch of people with you or not, or if you just go and do it by yourself. Like, it just sounds like very relaxing.
I'm pretty solitary. I'll take my family sometimes, and sometimes I'll go with friends. But most of the time when I'm on a food quest, it's like me going and eating food. That's just kind of how I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can respect that a lot. That's really awesome. Yeah. So, you have, I was creeping on your TikTok. I hope you don't mind. I really wanted to learn a little bit more about you to have, I guess, a good, genuine conversation with you. You have 3 kids, is that right?
Yeah, free now.
Yeah.
We just had one last. Was it Wednesday? Yeah, it was Wednesday. I haven't got much sleep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we have a 13-year-old, and he's adopted, and then we have 2 IVF babies. The first one is 2.5, and then the second one was last week. So
Awesome.
total, yeah.
And it's Elliot, Teddy, and Tristan Bell. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep.
I was like, I got to make sure I get these names right. Yeah, I saw a few of those videos that you posted them, and it's really awesome. I love that. I love the stuff that you post. It is a lot of fun, and I think it's really awesome to see how many people. I know that I guess it's not technically legal advice. You have that disclaimer on your page, but it's what you've seen, I guess, in the field, if you will, in court, and just who you talk to. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about being an attorney and like what was schooling like for Marco Brown.
So I always start kind of at the beginning. My grandmother, and this is how I got into the idea that I would get a doctorate of some sort. So my grandmother was a professor. She had a doctorate when women didn't do that sort of stuff. Still the smartest woman I've ever met in my entire life. And I've met some smart women. But she was absolutely brilliant and very, very exceptionally good at what she did. And I was kind of knew I'd take after her. And then my dad was a very intelligent guy as well. My mom's really bright as well, but she's not quite as educated as that line of the family. So I always knew that I would take after my grandma and get a doctorate of some sort. And I knew that when I was about 8 years old, but I didn't know what it was. I initially started college as a physics major, and then decided that that didn't really interest, it just didn't hold my interest enough. So I switched to psychology. I was going to be a clinical psychologist. And then the more and more I thought about it, the more I realized that the way my brain works and the way my personality is, like I was more suited to be an attorney. I was a bit more combative than a clinical psychologist should probably be.
Okay.
Just decided that, hey, let's do the attorney thing. Went to law school. So you go to undergrad, you get an undergrad degree, then you go to law school, and it's 3 years long. And it's rough, man. It's not like going to medical school. It's different than medical school. Medical school, you memorize everything under the sun. In law school, you have to think about things a little bit differently. You memorize some things, but kind of the dirty secret of lawyers is they don't actually memorize a ton. They just know how to think through problems. So law school is really learning how to think in very, very different ways and kind of concepts. So we just think in concepts and we think in arguments, right? So it's learning how to do all of that stuff and hold all of it in your head at the same time, and then come up with really creative arguments that incorporate all the facts and the law together and kind of meld all those things, and then present it in such a way that it's simple enough for a judge to understand it and rule in your favor.
Wow, that really does sound fascinating to me. Just as I guess an FYI, when I was a kid, this is 10-year-old, 13-year-old me. My mom would tell you I just wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. Never did it. Unfortunately, school was just not my thing, unfortunately. But I was like, well, I guess what really intrigues me is just being an attorney, like what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. So when you graduated, did you decide, did you always know you wanted to be a divorce attorney? Did you play around with the different fields? How does that work?
Yeah. So I initially was an insurance defense attorney.
Oh.
And that was the worst job. So my first job actually out of law school was as a clerk for judges. I love that job. Still my favorite job I've ever had as an attorney. It was great. So I'd help them with trials and write their decisions and orders and everything. It was fantastic. And the collegiality, everything I loved about that. Then I became a lawyer and I did insurance defense, and that was the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. I hated it. Only made it about 18 months. Then my wife came to me and said, hey, I want to get a doctorate at the University of Utah. And we had met at BYU, Brigham Young University, got married. So we'd been in Utah before, and we're like, yeah, let's go back, right? So we came back, opened a law firm with no clients, no network, new state. Had to loan myself money in 2010, not a good year for anything back then. But then you just decided to make it work. So did it. And in the beginning, I did pretty much everything I could because I just needed cash and I was chasing cash. So I did a lot of criminal defense, which I figured out very quickly I was not good at. I was not adept at all. And then I had a friend come and say, hey, I need a divorce. My husband found an internet honey sort of thing. So I said, sure, I can do that. I had absolutely no idea how to do that. I just needed money. So yeah. I stayed up until 3:00 in the morning the night before we met, reading everything I could about divorce. Then we met the next day and I'm like, all right, let's do this. So got it done. Really enjoyed it. Got her a good result. Kind of that, made me feel good. And then people kept coming in for that more and more. So then I became very good at it. And it's really easy to like something you're good at, right? So I just started doing it. And then it's all I've done for probably the last, decade.
That's interesting. Wow, that's a long time. I think I think it's great too, because people, at least, I don't know what I've heard from around, that people have this misconceptions about lawyers being, I don't want to say evil, but being the bad guys, when I wholeheartedly am like, no, they're just helping their clients to the best of their ability. And I think that's really great. And I can tell by the way that you at least do your videos, and some of the things that I've seen that you do, you definitely care so much about your clients and really helping people through probably what's a really rough, traumatizing time in their life, but ultimately for the better. And I think that you aren't unfair to either side, at least from what it seems like.
Well, I mean, the other side always thinks I'm unfair to the other to them. But you know, and in people's defense, lawyers are kind of like cops. Like, look, I have a brother who's a cop. I don't like cops, right? I'm kind of a libertarian guy, but I realize that cops keep me safe, right? So I don't like want to talk to them. I don't want my kids to talk to them. I don't want my wife to talk to them. But at the end of the day, without them there, like lots and lots more people are getting murdered, right? So nobody likes a cop until they need a cop. And it's kind of the same thing with lawyers. And in people's defense, lawyers don't do themselves any favors. We act like jerks a lot of times, but it's not even so much that really, it's the fact that we don't communicate what we do with lay people. We talk, so lawyers talk to lawyers, right? And they talk to judges. They don't talk to human beings that don't know the law. Right. So they just sit there and they talk, and everyone's like, my goodness, I can't understand what you're saying. You seem like a schmuck and a charlatan. And we just don't communicate well with them. And really try to tell them, hey, look, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the strategy. This is the concept that I'm trying to get across to you. Like, we just talk like lawyers, and that's easy for us because we are lawyers, right? It's always easy when you're in something to speak your jargon. It's much, much harder to take your jargon and your concepts and distill them down into such a way that you can talk to normal human beings that aren't in your kind of in-group about these very difficult concepts in a way that they can understand it. Yeah. So lawyers just don't do that. And I've spent years and years at this point doing exactly that, like figuring out how I can take the stuff in my head and communicate to somebody that doesn't know anything about law, about difficult legal concepts, do it accurately in a short amount of time. And that is exceptionally difficult, and almost nobody ever does it.
Yeah. Wow. Again, one of the many reasons why I decided to have you particularly on. Do you follow any of the other like social media lawyers that decided to make an account to show off what, not show off, basically on TikTok or YouTube and stuff like that?
Let me see, not on YouTube. There aren't that many lawyers on YouTube, and none of them that I like. I mean, I've seen a few, but none of them that kind of hold me. There are a few on TikTok I really enjoy. There's @GA Lawyer. She's from Georgia. She's a family law attorney down there. There's @Lawyer Kelly. I think that's her handle. Kelly Chang in LA. She's a hoot. I really enjoy her. You know, there's some others as well that I kind of like, but they're probably, you know, it's like maybe 3 or 4. I don't take, what's funny about TikTok is that, and I don't play the game terribly well, to be honest with you. Like, I get on there and I talk about stuff, and I don't like dance around. I don't do all that kind of stuff. So I'm amazed that I have like 100,000 followers, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
I saw that. I think that you deserve it and deserve a lot more, to be honest, with the content that you're pouring out. It's really interesting things that people don't, I feel like people don't really see too often. And it was at least curiosity, you know what I mean? Like when I watch your videos, for instance, you know, my parents got divorced, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much stuff they potentially went through to get a divorce. And it's like, wow, that lawyer must have been doing a lot of stuff. Both lawyers probably were doing a bunch of stuff to just make sure that the whole family was really okay. I feel like that's an end game, is really what's best for everybody. And I've actually have been recently very thankful for the attorneys that did what they did, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think that I would be doing this right now. So it's actually really awesome. Yeah.
Hopefully that's what attorneys do, right? Hopefully we're not stoking the flames, but enough of us do stoke the flames that people get really upset with us, right? I get a lot of that on TikTok, that I'm a piece of garbage because I'm a divorce attorney, and I just suck up people's money and so on and so forth. I'm like, well, you know, there are probably enough of us that do that sort of thing that I can understand where you're coming from.
It's definitely very interesting because you know, looking into doing this, I was looking at some of the comments and some of what people say, and it's very, very interesting, the amount of hate. Like, it almost makes me feel like maybe they've been hurt or had a divorce or something like that. But I'm like, at least Marco Brown's not that bad. Because I believe that you actually paid for a couple to get married, right?
Yeah. So last Valentine's Day, how many couples? I think 7. There were 7 of them, and it was a witness for one of them too. That was super cool. Yeah, that was fun. You know, that you just go down there and do that kind of thing. I try to do this. I try to give back.
Mm-hmm.
I give a lot. So I'm religious. I give a lot to my church. And then I also give quite a bit to girls in Guatemala to help them get educated with this place called Cooperative for Education. Very, very good, solid charity down there that helps a lot of girls in the highlands of Guatemala get educated, right? So that's how we tend to give back. And that, you know, one of the things that I'll say it this way, one of the things that people don't like about divorce attorneys is they cost too much, right? But look, if we don't charge, 1, I don't feed my family, and 2, I can't do these things. I can't give back to the community if I don't really charge that much. But here's also the dirty little secret about divorce attorneys is whenever you hear about how much a divorce attorney costs, it's always like the crazy case, and crazy cases cost what they do because crazy people, they're crazy clients is what it comes down to. So if somebody tells you that they spent $250,000 on their divorce, they're crazy, or their ex is crazy, or they're both crazy. Okay. But the average cost for a divorce attorney in the United States, I've seen this data, this is the best data available. The average cost for a divorce attorney in the United States is $3,000. So, you know, what is the average car? Like 20,000 that people are buying?
Yeah, it's not as crazy as, you know, if you put it that way, definitely, for sure. Because, I mean, you know, people see what they see, and they see really successful lawyers on billboards, and they just probably assume like they make all the money, which is good. I mean, especially for what, you know, you saying that you're doing. What got you involved in helping the girls in Guatemala?
I was listening to a podcast actually, and there was it's one I don't normally listen to. It was on Easter Island. It was like an examination of Easter Island, the history of Easter Island, where they have those big moai, you know, the big rock heads and whatnot. One of the most isolated places on earth, right? So I'm just listening to this podcast about it, and they talked about this charity, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, because a couple of years before that, my wife and I and family had gone to Belize for a vacation. We went to Guatemala, so we went to the highlands, and you know, went around some of these villages, and I just thought, holy crap, this is terrible. Like, they're living subsistence, right? They're living off chickens and, you know, pigs and goats, and they make essentially no money. So I thought, oh, that'd kind of be cool. And then looked at it a little more, decided to give, and now what are we up to? 17. I think we're up to 17 girls that we're sponsoring at this point.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you. That you don't. I feel like you don't hear very much of that going on, and it's awesome that you're the main one doing it. That you got to visit there and really see the living conditions and what they're going through, and to have the means to be able to help is really generous and really awesome of you. I appreciate that you do that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about when a lawyer is picking, I guess, a specific, way to go with being an attorney, divorce attorney, business attorney. I don't even know all of them. How many different ones are there?
There are hundreds.
Really?
Hundreds. Oh, yeah, we call them practice areas. There are just hundreds of them. It's like a doctor, right? A doctor could be a neurosurgeon. It could be a vascular surgeon. There are like 1,000 things you can do with a doctor, and it's the same with an attorney.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I was just like, do you recommend, like, no matter who you are, just get an attorney to have one? Like, or should you wait for the specific issue to arise?
In a divorce, is that what you're talking?
Well, I guess in general practice, I guess, should you have an attorney? Just, I don't know.
No, not well. I mean, it depends. It depends on what you do. So if you're a guy like me, so I own a law firm, and we're going to expand into other states. So I'm entrepreneurial, right? If you're entrepreneurial, yes, you should have attorneys that are helping you with business and with taxes and so on and so forth. Yep, you absolutely should. if you're just a normal person making $50,000 a year and you're not in business for yourself, then there's really no need for an attorney until one comes up, right? You get in a car accident, you get a divorce, you get some fence line boundary dispute with your neighbor or something like that. Then you have to actually go find an attorney, right? But one of the things to keep in mind is that vast majority of problems that could be solved through the legal system should not be solved through the legal system. There are, just to give you an example, in Utah, there are about 10,000 divorces a year.
Okay.
And half of those do not involve attorneys. Now, some of those, 5,000, right, probably should get attorneys because they have kids and they have all these things, but they just want to do it on their own. And I guess that's fine, but they probably should have one. But a lot of them, probably the majority of them, should not have an attorney because they just don't have enough they don't have enough money, they don't have kids, they don't have enough stuff that they're really arguing about to justify hiring an attorney. So even though you can go get an attorney for some things, you don't always need to. And that the way you make the determination whether or not you need one is there a lot of money at play, right? I mean, if you got a lot of money at play, then you probably do need to go at least meet with an attorney and see if it's worth it, right? In divorce, if you have kids in play, you really should go at least meet an attorney, probably hire one, because if you mess up stuff with your kids when they're 2 or 3, you're going to spend the next 15, 16 years fighting about things. So just get it done right. So that's kind of how I think about it. If there's a lot of money or you got kids involved, you should go get an attorney. But most of the time, people can just work stuff out on their own.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and there doesn't need to be any kind of like written contract between them. It's just what we agreed to verbally.
Most of the time, like when you're getting stuff done out of court, that's usually what you're doing is just working it out between people. Maybe there's some money that exchanges hands or whatnot. You just don't write it down. Most of that is probably going to be fine. If you're unsure about it, then go pay a lawyer for an hour and ask whether or not it's even worth it.
Okay, that's really interesting. As a divorce attorney, are you? And I don't know. This is just stuff that I've heard. This is me just being ignorant with law and whatnot. Does
And no one should know this stuff unless they're an attorney. It's okay.
That's awesome. I love that. Do divorce attorneys, do they do pro bono cases? Do you do that? I don't know.
So some do. I don't do pro bono cases because, like I said, I've helped over 3,000 people and I've met with over 10,000. Like, there's no way I just want to go do another divorce, right? It's not my game. So what I do instead is I help the girls, right? I support them and do that. But there are a lot of attorneys that will take on a pro bono case here. A pro bono case means the one that you're not paying for. So they'll do one pro bono case at a time, or they'll have what are called low bono cases. So instead of $300 an hour that they're charging, they charge like $100 an hour. They charge $50 an hour, something along those lines, right? So they'll probably keep 2-3 low bono cases going at any given time. I have chosen not to do that because I have a very I want to use that money in a different way and use that time in a different way. And then this is the way I think about business: is that I will give away, and this is TikTok. I make no money off this stuff at all, and I answer questions for people all around the world. I'm never going to make money on. So I am more than willing to give away my stuff for free. The moment you hire me, though, you are paying 100% for the work I do, and there are no exceptions to that. So I'll give everything away. I have 400,000 words of content on my website. It's utdivorceattorney.com. Like, anybody can go there. You can get my templates. Like, I put my templates for my pleadings on my website, so anybody can go get those as well. Like, I'll give away the farm for free. But the moment you hire me to help you, you are paying 100% of what I tell you to pay.
Yeah, as they should. I mean, I would say your time is very valuable. So
yep.
That's awesome. Just being a realtor, I feel the same way. We're just obviously paid a little bit, differently, and when we get paid. So I can see that.
It's not like you're cutting your commission when you sell a house. Man.
Absolutely. No, I don't. I have to help certain cases out, like when they go south, like I'm willing to do things. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's awesome, and I love people that do that for sure. And it's how business should be run. And the fact that you're giving whatever your knowledge away and your at least your I don't want to say opinions. Is it an opinion, or how would you say it legally what you do? Because it's not advice.
I said counsel.
Counsel. Okay.
Right. I'm giving people counsel. I mean, it is ultimately my opinion about the law,
Mhm.
but I just happen to have done this so many times that I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do you what do you think the rate is? And I guess in your opinion, what do you see the rate is of people like who actually go to court, or can it all be settled outside of court?
So these are the numbers in our law firm. So any 100 people who hire us, 85 of those people will go directly to mediation to negotiate their case. And we will get done in mediation, and they will never see the inside of a courtroom.
In mediation,
15,
guys and the lawyers, right? You as the lawyers and the two parties.
yeah. We get together with a mediator who's there is to facilitate communication, not a judge or anything like that, just there to facilitate communication and negotiation, and we get stuff done.
Awesome.
About 15% of people out of 100 will go to court on what are called temporary orders, because there's something that's happening right now that we need to fix, right? That we need to address. So about 15 out of 100 will do that, and then we will go to mediation after that. So that mediation and temporary orders followed by mediation takes care of about 95 out of 100 cases. Then those other 5 will go past that onto litigation, and like they're going to trial. So there'll be a custody evaluator to deal with children, or a forensic accountant to deal with the business, or something along those lines, right? So you got about 5% of those that go beyond that mediation phase. And in the end, about 1 out of every 100 will go actually to trial.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. That's really cool. I just assumed everybody went to court and just did what they did.
No, it's very here in Utah, we have a different kind of culture than a lot of the surrounding states. So we take care of, I just tell people we take care of our stuff. Like, we don't involve the judges that much, to be honest with you. Like, we take care of our clients, we take care of our people, and then we get stuff done. In other states around Utah, like Idaho, Vegas, Nevada, Arizona, California, they go to trial much, much more often than we do. I want to say that Idaho averages probably, I've talked with professionals up there, probably about 15% of the time they will go to trial on cases. Nevada is probably pretty close to that. Arizona tends to be 10 to 15%. And then California, I'm not entirely sure, but it's much higher than Utah. So we have a very unique culture here where we mediate everything, we negotiate everything, and we get our stuff done. But in other states, there are a lot of people going to trial and paying through the nose to go to trial. Because anybody who goes to trial is going to pay tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do that. If not, I mean, in California, it's probably going to be closer to 100 plus. Just because of the way the California court system, the way it works. But you're paying tens of thousands of dollars to go to trial pretty much anywhere.
Wow. Is that mainly because of what the attorneys are charging, and then court costs? Are court costs super expensive? One of those things.
No, court costs are never part of that. It's always based on what the attorneys are, the amount of time the attorneys have to spend on the case. Like today, finishing up this trial, I spent 8 hours writing kind of these closing arguments to recapitulate for the judge everything that happened during the trial. Okay, because he wanted them in written form. And it just takes a very long time to wade through the 2,000 pages of documents and evidence that we have, and then remember the 3 days of testimony. It just takes an extraordinary amount of time. And my client is going to pay a lot of money for that, but my client's okay with it because we got kids on the line and we got hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line. So willing to pay it, but it's rough on people.
I bet. What would you say the most, do you deal with a lot of what would you say the rate is of at least with what your firm does, the rate of vindictiveness between the two parties? Is it high? Is it low? Is it not as high as people think?
It's lower than people think. Everybody's vindictive, right? Everybody's getting divorced. There is no, I think I've had less than 5 cases where everybody was super nice to each other and we just got stuff done at the very beginning, and look, again, helped over 3,000 people, 5 or less that have been like that. People fight in divorce because they don't like each other anymore. It's just kind of how it is. But it's usually pretty low level stuff. I've had some really super vindictive clients over the years, and I've figured out how to weed them out. I just fire them anymore if they're super vindictive, because it's just not worth the fight. It's never worth the money they want to spend. It's never worth the money that we're going to get. The emotional toll that it takes on the attorneys is actually really high, because most divorce attorneys, the vast majority of us, just want to get stuff done, right? We don't want to facilitate the fight. We just want to get things done for our clients and help them out. So there's a lot of emotional toll on us when our clients are acting like really super vindictive jerks, and I just won't put up with it. I just fire people.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. It's I feel like you don't really hear that much about attorneys firing, at least the average layman, I guess, doesn't really hear that much about attorneys firing people. That's really cool to hear that.
Attorneys don't fire enough clients.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay. What do you have a particular case that was just like, it made you like shake your head, like, what is going on right now? Are you allowed to talk about stuff like that? Or I don't know.
I can't if I change things around. So
Okay.
let me, yeah, I've had some that I've had a couple involving like rape of children, and those are the worst I've ever had. And because there's no good way to deal with it. Like I said, most of the time we're just we're getting people negotiated and we're getting them on with their lives. But when you deal with literal psychopaths who rape kids, you can't do that. And you got to put on boxing gloves and you have to punch those people in the face over and over and over again. And that's very difficult. Again, emotionally on the attorneys, it's very difficult. I mean, it's kind of fun because there's literally psychopaths, but
Yeah,
it's again, never worth it, right? It's never worth the emotional toll, but you have to. I had to in those situations because I owed it to my client and the kids to protect them. And I just had to maul the other side every day for months and years.
Years. Oh, it's not a fast process.
Yeah, one of them took 3 years, I think, to get done. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't every day, but
Right. But when everything finally went through and finished up, it was 3 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. That is really sad. I don't know. I don't know if I could handle myself. I guess the only way you could do it is very much just let me punch the crap out of you, and to make sure that you don't ever do this again to any child. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's exactly what it was. You just do. I did everything in my power to facilitate those people never being around kids again. Let's put it that way.
What's your I guess what's your favorite part of doing that in particular? Like, do you just like do you personally, like, I don't want to say embarrassed, but do you make them like no, like during like, because I don't know how often you talk to them, to the other side that much, or are you just communicating with the attorney, but are you like, you're a jerk and I'm about to show you how much of a jerk you are?
Yeah. So the way you end up doing this, I can't never converse directly with the other side, right? Unless they're pro se, unless they're representing themselves. And in these situations, there were attorneys. So I have to talk with the attorneys. Thankfully, attorneys, for the most part, are pretty conscious about who their clients are. There are some attorneys that just drink the Kool-Aid that their clients give them, but most of us know our clients lie to us. We realize when we have really bad clients and we have really tough situations that we just go to the other attorney and say, hey, look, man, I got to deal with this. Because it's kind of the luck of the draw. Sometimes we get bad clients. Sometimes we get bad situations. You know how it is, right? And that's the way we communicate with each other. And we all cut each other slack doing that. So between the attorneys, it's usually pretty good. But here's the thing. I have an obligation when I get somebody on the stand and it's a trial or a hearing and I'm cross-examining them. So there's what's called direct examination. When you're a person's attorney, you get to direct examine them. And because they're your witness, you're not hostile toward them, right? You're just kind of taking them through their story. Cross-examination is when the opposing attorney gets to ask questions. So if I get to question the opposing party, in those types of situations, and if the strategy, if I deem the strategy correct to do this, I take them apart surgically. I beat them like redheaded stepchildren, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
And you just, I'm relentless at it. I get my hooks in, and I just go and go and go until I beat them, and I beat them bad. And then I do some more, right? Because that's my job. Like ultimately that's my job, is in those situations. And usually the strategy does not call for this. So, I had a trial about a month and a half ago, and with the opposing party, I didn't need to do this because she was kind of a putz, right? I didn't really need to do much of anything. I just had to ask some questions and she would answer them, and she'd sound like a liar. And, so I didn't need to push, right? And the other attorney, I didn't think was all that talented anyway. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll like do my thing, but I don't really need much out of you. But in situations where I deem the strategy appropriate, and it really is, then I go at people and I don't let up until they're done.
Yeah.
They're totally done.
That's really, you did your job then. That's awesome.
I did that to a lady once. It was a thing. It was a thing of beauty, man. So I always tell people this: cross-examination, and only lawyers will get this. Cross-examination is way better than sex. Like, it's so much better, so much more satisfying. And that sounds like I'm just a nerd for this stuff, man. So I love it, but it's way better than sex. So I get done, and I mean, I have dismantled this woman, and she absolutely, totally deserved it on every level. When she gets down, she's walking toward me, and she says, "You are such an a-hole." I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. That means I did my job.
Yeah.
And we won. And I did exactly what was necessary in that situation. But thankfully, that is not necessary most of the time.
Yeah. For those who don't follow you, for those that don't follow you on TikTok, you talk about a very interesting thing that happened to you after I guess, I don't know if it was mediation or after a trial, where you got on a plane to go on vacation, and the other spouse of your client's ex was a flight attendant. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so he's a flight attendant, and I've changed the facts enough, so don't think I'm like talking out of school here. I've changed the facts enough that no one can identify this. But yeah, he's a flight attendant. I went back to the bathroom. I'm on a plane with my wife. It's about a 4-hour flight. So I go back, and this is one where I had to dismantle this guy on, it was in court, and I just, stem to stern, man, just took him apart. So I go back to the bathroom. I see him. I'm not even sure I went to the bathroom. I may have, I'm not sure though. But I went back, I sat down next to my wife, and I said, "You and I are not eating peanuts. We're not drinking Coke. We're not drinking water, nothing. We sit here for the next 4 hours on this plane with nothing." She's like, what are you talking about, Marco? And I said, so-and-so, like, I had a case, and I kind of told her about it. And I talked a little bit about it vaguely, kind of venting like people do, like married people do. And so she knew about it. She's like, "Oh, okay, I understand." So yeah, we just sat there for like the next 3.5 hours.
It's funny that you laugh at it now, but at the time I was like, "Oh gosh, this sucks." I'm really thirsty.
I didn't know what he was going to do, honestly. I mean, it was one of those where I was, he was weird enough that I was never sure if he was going to blow.
Does that happen often, or does it happen period? I don't know.
It doesn't happen that often. I know of a case, every once in a while it will happen. I have a friend in Georgia Tracy. She lives just outside Atlanta, and 2 or 3 years ago, a husband in a divorce came into one of her friend's offices and shot him in the head because, you know, they'd gone to trial and the guy did his job, right? Won. And, you know, the ex just couldn't take it. So he went in and killed the attorney. So that doesn't happen that often, but believe me, so I'm from Alaska, so I have guns anyway, because, you know, I'm Alaskan, but I have guns and I have them near me for a reason. Like
Yeah.
I don't want anybody taking out a member of my staff or trying to take me or my family out.
Wow, that's insane that that kind of stuff happens. Jeez, I guess I could see it based off, again, like probably mental illness and stuff like that. How often is that a big play in a lot of divorces, like that particular reasoning, or does it always have to do with just like unfaithful spouses and stuff like that?
So I think in my experience, most of it is just people not even being unfaithful, although there's a lot of that, but a lot of times being unfaithful, and I'm not excusing this at all, but being unfaithful is a symptom of an underlying problem. Like you just don't dig your spouse much anymore, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go have sex with somebody else. But you had a lot of problems that kind of led up to that. So that might be the last straw, but it's not usually the first straw. Most of the time, though, I see people in my office that just they tell me all the time I've fallen out of love, and usually what that means is that they have not put forth the effort to make it work. And that sounds really harsh and judgy, and it probably is, but I tell people all the time, hey, look, don't use the money that you're going to pay me on me. Like, go use it on therapy. Go use it on, I don't know, something. Go spend it on your spouse. Do whatever you need to do to make your marriage work. So I think that's most of it. But, you know, on the other hand, I have dealt with quite literally every mental illness that inhabits the human mind. Absolutely.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I bet I can see that. What is it? Is it a challenge, would you say, or is it really just, I don't really have to deal with them because I'm working with their attorney? Do you ever get people that have that kind of like mental issue that decide to do it pro se, I think is what you said? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've had them, you know, and again, pro se is people without attorneys. They just represent themselves. Yes, I've had people with severe mental illness represent themselves. So we have to try to work with them, and that's extraordinarily difficult. Much easier to deal with attorneys the vast majority of the time because the attorneys have sense, right? But here's the thing. If you have a mental illness, you're usually not finding the kind of most normal attorney.
Yeah.
Right? Because people, this is weird, but people tend to hire attorneys that are kind of sort of like them. So if they're pretty rational, then they go find that type of attorney, and they want that type of attorney to help them out. If you're bonkers, right, for lack of a better term, then you're most likely going to go find an attorney who is kind of bonkers and really difficult to deal with. So you got those two playing off each other, and it becomes more difficult, but it's fine. Like, we deal with that stuff all the time. But yeah, people tend to hire attorneys that are kind of like them, and that really does make it harder. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I definitely, again, Marco, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I know that we went a little bit over the time frame, and I really appreciate your time. I know you got 3 babies waiting for you outside here. I want to thank you again. How can people find you?
So you can always go to TikTok. It's @divorceattorney on TikTok. You can go to my website. It's www.utdivorceattorney.com. Google my name, Marco Brown. It's probably going to bring me up. I think there's like some Moroccan guy who's an artist that might be named. That's the only other guy that comes up. But if you want Marco Brown attorney, just Google that. I'm going to come up. If you're here in Utah, I can definitely help you with divorce. I can't help people outside of Utah, right? I'm not barred in other states. I'm not licensed in other states. But you know, you go to TikTok, you ask questions, and I'm going to give the best kind of general advice that I can for your situation. And then I'm going to tell you to go talk to an attorney in your state.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Marco, thank you again so much. I appreciate you being the first guest, man. And it was a pleasure meeting you and talking with you. I hope we meet in person soon. Maybe 1 year, a 1 year mark reappearance. That would be great. Maybe in person next time.
That'd be awesome. Thanks so much. This is fantastic. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I look forward to talking to you soon.